Welcome to Episode 2 of Panasonic's The Sound Experience, a series on the future of audio and mobility. And now, Panasonic's Director of Marketing and Communications, Maria Rohrer.
Hey everyone, I'm Maria Rohrer with Panasonic Automotive. Welcome to Episode 2 of Panasonic's series on the future audio in the automotive space. Now, last time we looked at the technical and creative processes that are bringing new concepts for premium audio experiences to the automotive industry. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the new world of voice recognition, enhancing sound, canceling sound, high-definition sound, the resurgence of a better premium audio experience in your vehicle. That's everything we're going to be talking about today. And this week, I have some guests from inside the company, and we're going to be providing a lot of great insights to lift the curtain on how a lot of these emerging technologies work. So we're excited to give everyone a unique glimpse into this space. Now, coming up a little bit later, Andrew Poliak will be joining us again to have a conversation with Jim Walter, our Director of Audio and HMI from Panasonic Automotive, to show how these technologies are shaping the auto industry. But first, we want to welcome Chris Sullivan, who is one of our software engineers at Panasonic, and he's currently working on some new algorithms for noise canceling and voice scrubbing technologies. Welcome, Andrew, back, and welcome, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Let's get an introduction from Chris first. Chris, give us a little bit of an idea of what you do at Panasonic. You're an algorithm software engineer. What is that all about? What does a person who works on algorithms do? It sounds heavy in math.
Yeah. For the most part, I write math that makes cars sound good. That's kind of the long and short of it. So yeah, a day-to-day kind of experience for me would be to do some math on paper, make some derivations, and then move over to the computer and write it out as code, then do some testing and make sure it all works.
Andrew, as the Advanced Chief Technical Officer, what are you looking for when we have somebody like Chris on board and the number of brilliant software engineers working at Panasonic? What as a CTO, are you looking for Chris to help us advance?
It's really advance the customer experience in the car. So make the ability to interact with your vehicle distraction-free and also very easy and intuitive as you're working in your vehicle in your third space, which is where you occupy the most outside of home and the office. So being able to communicate with your car, easy access advanced features as these vehicles become much more complicated over time, to make sure that you can use all the different inputs necessary to interact with the vehicle, and also to make the vehicle a really pleasant experience. And a lot of the algorithms that Chris works on is not just to make it the speech recognition and the interaction with your vehicle more intuitive and easy and higher acceptance rate where you can understand and the vehicle can understand what you're trying to say, but also to make the environment much more comfortable to be in and make sure that there's less noise in the environment, make sure that it's just a great space to be in.
You know, the idea of managing noise, I presume, comes from the way you manage the software. And I think the world has gone so much to software-type strategies where even in audio, which is a strength for Panasonic, we do a lot with software. So, Chris, with software, how do we utilize software to manage audio and enhance or minimize noise, as Andrew was talking about?
Well, sure. There are a couple different places in a car where software is going to play a part in your audio experience. I guess probably the most direct way is in your media playback system, having software that tunes that, makes it sound good. There's also a big chunk of software that makes your hands-free telephone calls sound good. That's one of the main parts of speech processing in the past. Recently, we've been seeing kind of a trend towards having a big chunk of software algorithms in the pre-processing chain for voice assistants. So this is your Alexa, your Hey Google. And so those are going to help your experience because they're going to clean up your microphone signal in a way that lets your voice assistant listen to you more closely.
I see. That's interesting. And Andrew, from a business standpoint, who is looking for that kind of technology?
Yeah, let me add one to Chris. The last area of where they're working on too is in active noise cancellation. So in addition to the processing that you do in front of your assistant, or in addition to your hands-free calling and your audio manipulation to make the sound quality better in your audio system, there's a trend to also get rid of problem noises that makes the vehicle environment less comfortable. So things like the boom you get with cylinder deactivation, that improves fuel economy. When you remove that booming sound, a lot of times it can give you uncomfort while you're riding in a vehicle. You can remove that sound, which gives automakers more tools to tune the vehicle in such a way that it gets better fuel economy, but doesn't increase the irritation you'd have while riding in the vehicle. So Chris's team is doing that quite a bit, and that's a big strength that Panasonic has, not just on single problem frequencies, but also on road noise that can be in the vehicle. So again, you could reduce weight from the vehicle by removing sound deadening materials, which could improve fuel economy or range in the case of electric vehicles, and then still remove all that outside noise that's coming in using software algorithms to get rid of that, those problem frequencies, or problem sounds that are getting into the cabin. But I just wanted to add that little bit to Chris's, but I also want to say, man, I could just step back and go on mute. Chris has got it perfectly. So sorry,
Thanks,
I wanted to add that piece. You can edit it how you will, but sorry, Maria, could you repeat your question to me?
Yeah, my question, Andrew, was if you look at the broad strokes of what audio algorithm does for your vehicle, who's looking for this kind of enhancement? You know, what
Sure.
kind of businesses, who is really looking to use this? Is it businesses, end consumers, automakers? Who is it?
Yeah, I think all of the above are looking to use acoustic and sound technologies in the vehicle environment. So in the business area, I already mentioned, or I would highlight automakers themselves who are looking for sound enhancements to reduce distraction, improve the user experience, and also in some cases improve things like fuel economy, as I mentioned in the kind of longer answer. In the case of user experience and reducing distraction, there's acoustic technologies like in-car communication that allows you to subtly enhance the driver speaking to the third row passenger. So that way the driver isn't forced to turn around to communicate with that third row. And often it's difficult when you're speaking forward for somebody in the far back to hear you. So we have technologies like in-car communication that picks up the driver's communication and then subtly sends it to the third row. So it sounds like it's just the driver talking, but it's really enforcing that sound into the third row. So that's good for the automakers to reduce distraction and improve safety in their vehicles from not having you turn around to yell at the kids. I think also on the case of automakers around fuel economy standards, and I mentioned cylinder deactivation and reducing sound deadening materials and weight, all these ways to improve range and fuel economy they can do with sound algorithms by removing noises in the cabin. And then as Chris mentioned, this idea of bringing your personal life into your automotive environment and bringing in your favorite virtual assistant, Alexa or Siri or Hey Google or Cerence. All those can have some pre-processing to know what do you say, so the wake-up word is activated when you, instead of needing to press a button in your car, you can say Hey Google or Alexa and follow that with a command that can be your normal Alexa commands you're used to at home, or be integrated into the vehicle environment that they actually control vehicle functions with or without a network connection. So Alexa, change my HVAC to full speed, the blower to full power, or change my seat heater to 68 degrees, or there may be a number of different pieces you could actually communicate and control the vehicle with. And then, of course, all of these benefit the consumer. Better fuel economy, better sound when listening to music, better hands-free calling, and better environment for being in the vehicle, and then a more safe environment.
That's excellent. So many benefits, the least of which is hearing each other be able to speak inside the vehicle. Let's get a little bit more technical, Chris. In the audio world, there's a technical term called voice isolation. On the surface, you might think you know what that means, but I think we should ask our algorithmic engineer, Chris Sullivan, to explain that to us.
Well, I could talk for many hours on this topic. I'll try to condense it a little bit. But yeah, so yeah, you mentioned the three main technologies here are beamforming and music cancellation, and then some sort of a nonlinear suppression or a noise suppression stage. Yeah. Really, these three technologies are just designed to take a microphone signal that has speech in it, as well as a whole bunch of contaminating bad noises that we don't want to listen to, and extracting the speech from it without really tarnishing the speech quality. So these three different technologies are really all going to tackle that fundamental problem in different ways using different information. So the beamforming stage is going to use spatial information. So the idea is, in a car, you have several different occupants, and they kind of have fixed positions, right? So if you want to target the driver, you know that the driver is in a certain position, and if the passenger is also talking and you don't want to listen to the passenger is in a different position. So you can tailor your microphone solution. If you have multiple microphones in the car with their own fixed positions, you can mix them together in such a way that you only listen to the driver. So that's the beamforming stage using spatial information. Then you have a music cancellation stage, which is going to use kind of information about the media that's coming out of the car, because we're generating the media coming out of the car. We have access, we have hooks into that audio system, so we can kind of listen for the music that's coming out of the speakers and then cancel it on the microphones. So that's another source of information that we have in order to reduce noise level. And then kind of the last stage is the noise suppression or the nonlinear suppression stage, where we're using information about how loud we expect all these signals to be, and also information about their timbre that we expect, or kind of the frequency content of all these signals, because we know that speech sounds very different from road noise, right? Mm-hmm. So we can kind of write an algorithm in order to exploit those differences. And so once you combine all three of those technologies, you're really using a lot of information, and so you're able to pretty effectively separate the target speech from all the background noises.
Ah, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Well, the world is noisy, so being able to do that, do we have that technology, what you're talking about in those three stages of cleaning up voice? Is that in the market today?
To a certain extent, I'd say that it's more in the home market right now. If you get a voice assistant for your home, usually there's going to be some level of all these three technologies built into it. In the car, a little bit less so. I think that's the trend that we're moving towards, is for the car to behave very similarly to your house. Mm-hmm. All your home technologies just porting kind of effortlessly over to the car.
Is this something that consumers that drive their vehicles ultimately expect, or is it something that they don't even know is happening?
I think that most consumers aren't really even aware it's happening in their home. They just kind of expect their voice assistants to work. So I think that's the same basic trend we see in the vehicle. The manufacturers should really be aware of that, and understanding that right now the car is not in the same place as the home, and that we need to be really moving towards having those be an effortless transition for the consumer.
The world is noisy. Cars passing by, environmental noise, kids crying, my dogs are barking. The world is extremely noisy. So I asked Andrew Poliak to give me a little bit of an idea of how do I hear myself think, Andrew? What can we do to minimize some of that environmental noise. What do you say?
Imagine a day in the future where turn-by-turn navigation is whispered into the driver's ear with music playing in the background that the only one who hears it is the driver. So these types of technologies are coming to the car where those types of engagements with the vehicle will just really broaden the consumer experience of what they can expect in these environments. So, a whisper agent having the interaction with your speech recognition or your navigation prompts, whispered in your ear. And I used air quotes if you can't hear me on podcast there. And the other part that you'll get is also this ability to keep using audio algorithms to isolate zones within the vehicle that people can be enjoying their own content individually as well. So you could have a rear passenger playing movie content without using headphones, hearing it clearly, interacting with a speech assistant, having that speech assistant dial in exactly to that location in the car and interact with that particular person, and having that whole experience be contained in kind of an audio bubble to that particular passenger or driver. So we see that coming in the future of these kind of sound zones that would allow for that kind of interaction. And where it becomes important is also the future of rideshare and mobility, where you may be sitting next to a stranger in the vehicle you're going down the road with, and you may want to interact with your content or your media on a big screen without wearing headphones, without annoying your neighbor, and you can exactly do that. So that's just one of a whole variety of technologies that will really focus on how do you really customize the audio environment for the passenger and for the driver in a way that can give them their own unique listening experience.
Ah, that's fabulous. We are living in fabulous times, and you taught me a new term. Whisper agent, is that what you said? Sounds very,
Yes.
very stealth. I want to thank you, Chris, for joining us, and we're going to move on to our next guest. Thanks again, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Maria.
So Andrew and I are still here, and we're joined by Jim Walter. He is our Director of Audio and HMI. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing to dig deep today in technical and audio. And you have some very specific expertise in canceling noise and enhancing noise. First of all, talk to us a little bit about what you do.
So here at Panasonic, I get the luxury of working in my hobby and playing with sound, manipulating sound, creating music, and managing the entertainment for the user experience in the vehicle. Like I said, this is my hobby. I'm a home do-it-yourself speaker builder, and this is what I love to do, so I'm a pretty lucky guy.
You are really not working, sir. You are working and having fun at the same time. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
Talk to me a little bit about noise cancellation. ANC has been around for some time, but there might be some enhancements in there. Why do we cancel noise? Why do we find the need to cancel out noise?
Yeah, some of the history of noise cancellation is interesting. It started out as a comfort management, but it's evolved. Initially, we were simply canceling, as Andrew had mentioned, those boom noises when we have cylinder deactivations or a different type of exhaust on a vehicle that makes the vehicle lighter or better in fuel economy. But as we did that, engines got boring. And if you go back to the era of muscle cars, people bought cars because they sounded a certain way. Your Mopar sounded like something. Your Ford Mustang 5.0 with Flowmaster sounded a certain way. And people had character. I mean, look at the movie Cars. Each car sounds a certain way. So the interface that we have with our car, the character of the vehicle we buy, not only its own style, but its sound characteristics and the way that it feels. So when we started decontenting the sound of a car by making things more efficient, and it truly does, efficient engines usually sound worse, we had to cancel the bad noise to make it not fatiguing, as Andrew stated. But at the same time, while we have the luxury and the power and the processing to cancel the noise, we also have the ability in real time to add back in the sound that you thought you once wanted to hear. So we can take a turbocharged 6-cylinder engine and make it sound not like a race car, but like a nice, powerful, smooth V8 or a nicer sounding V6 engine that is more enjoyable and more pleasurable. And we can even do that on the fly. So you could have a driving mode for pure comfort where we simply cancel everything and you want to drive in silence. But then you switch the knob to engage and your car now sounds a little racier, not fake, but just something more engaging and something more fun. So we're not just canceling, we're designing the experience of sound to be in the environment you want it based on your chosen mode.
Okay, that was quite a lot. Let me break it down into two questions. I know you're not a doctor, you're an engineer, but what you talked about noise being maybe stressful or exhausting from a physiological standpoint. Why is that the case, number one? And then I want to ask you the question about why people want to enhance sound.
Okay. Well, noise, environmental noise, can be fatiguing to anyone. If you think about a long plane ride, you've got that droning noise that you hear in a plane, or even on a train, a bus, or in the car. If you take a long trip, you got to get out and breathe. Those steady state noises that you really don't know you're hearing slowly add stress to how you feel and how comfortable you are. When we can cancel those, even if it's on your 30-minute commute to work, you're less stressed and you're less fatigued when you arrive ready to work.
That's true. That's true. I think we can all say that when we hear a little bit of peace and quiet. And then why do we want to bring out what is considered good noise or even change it completely to something different? Why do we want to do that? Is it just for aesthetics? Is it to build a different kind of character for that particular brand or model?
So as automotive manufacturers have really begun to find efficiencies in platform sharing, engine sharing across brands. For example, you may have a truck that uses the same turbocharged engine that's found in a sports car, and then it's in mom's SUV or dad's SUV. That engine has to sound a certain way for the work truck. It has to sound a certain way for the sports car, because that's what we've come to expect from an engagement perspective when we buy this theme, this comfortable SUV, this tough truck, or this sporty sports car.
There seems to be a premium audio renaissance. Opening it up to both Andrew and Jim on this question, what is premium audio and why is there a renaissance?
From my perspective, the world is moving to more ADAS and autonomous applications. And because of that, you're having more time in your vehicle that you can enjoy premium content, whether that is movies or music, and your commute suddenly becomes a space that you can really enjoy. I often had asked people what they spend on their home theater systems, and sometimes it's thousands and thousands of dollars. But the time that they actually get to listen to it is half an hour a week. When you have an hour a day or 2 hours a day, sometimes in commute, imagine what you can do when suddenly you can kick back and relax and enjoy it with a great entertainment experience.
Andrew, you mentioned ADAS. Can you just describe what ADAS in premium audio is?
What I was meaning more is as cars become self-driving, you have that ability. So ADAS is advanced driver assistance systems. That allows for times of disconnecting from the driving process and really enjoying multimedia consumption. So that's one reason why premium audio is playing a new resurgence. It's not just premium audio, but we're seeing technologies like movies and Netflix coming into the vehicle. We're seeing large screens occupy the whole dashboard in some cases. And I think the future will allow that for both rideshare and for autonomous applications to really consume that media content in a much more enjoyable way.
Fabulous. Jim, same questions to you. What is premium audio and why is there a renaissance?
I'll start with the why. We're at a lucky point right now where, as Andrew mentioned, consumption in the vehicle from consumers for Netflix or streamed content or everything has really just changed. And with vehicles now either being shared, so you're the passenger in the back, or being self-driven or semi-autonomously driven, we have more time to be entertained. At the same time, we talked about the vehicle being quieter and quieter with all of these cancellation and sound designs that we have. Those all come together to the point that the vehicle becomes a mobile theater or a mobile entertainment box for us. So we now, with the need to cancel all of these broad spectrum sounds from really low booming frequencies to higher frequencies, to create spatial cues around you so that you can intelligently know where sounds or things are coming from as we've quieted the cabin. All of those tools allow us to make a premium audio system in nearly every car now that's unrivaled. If you go back a decade, systems couldn't touch what we can do today, even in a mid-level system. It's pretty fantastic.
Hey, and Maria, one other point is content. With cars becoming connected and mobile devices integrating into the phone, we're starting to see new content that creates premium experiences. So in the past, we had to take 2-channel audio and manipulate it to sound like surround sound. And as we mentioned in one of our earlier podcasts, now companies like Tidal, Amazon Music, a variety of others are recording and asking studios to record in HD content. So using codecs from either Dolby or in general an MPEG-H type algorithm to bring these up to 10-channel surround sounds into the car and really making content that's going to be incredible.
And Andrew, as you are tracking the world of noise cancellation and noise manipulation, or in this case, noise enhancement, what do you see as the future of where this is headed?
Yeah, I think we're already seeing some car manufacturers want to be able to let people personalize the sound of their vehicle dramatically. So quite a while ago, there was one particular description of an audio profile for the sound to sound like in a vehicle. And that the way they described it was a snow leopard crossed with a bass guitar. And that was one particular sound. They wanted that growl with that kind of harmonic, all kind of integrated into a vehicle that could give a really unique sound profile. Because sound is something having a resurgence with all these assistants and now premium audio that can support high definition audio and up to 10 channels of audio, like we discussed in a prior podcast. These experiences around audio are reemerging and premium audio is coming back. So why wouldn't you take that into the personalization of even the profile of what your car sounds like and how it behaves and how it growls at you when you drive down the road? So I think, as Jim so eloquently put it, the brand's characteristics of what that audio profile should sound like will start to shift to the consumer's own personalization of that sound to a unique experience to their car. And I think that will be one trend as we go forward, is that ability to personalize the environment both inside and outside of the vehicle.
So you're talking about not only enhancing the sound of the vehicle that I drive, but one day I can customize it to my own. That's fabulous.
I know when I was a kid, I always wanted that horn that you could make into like 350 different horn varieties, right? So,
even on your bicycle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jim, I know you have a personal example from business that you actually worked on to enhance sound. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. A couple years ago, we were challenged by one of our automaker partners to create a very engaging, powerful sound while the engine itself was decontented to the point of near silence. And a lot of times in the market, when this has happened on sports vehicles or anything like that, reviewers or consumer feedback has been pretty negative. They say this is, fake sounds. But the way that we did it was so well integrated that it wasn't complained about. It was simply recognized that this engine sounded good. And the truth was it didn't. We were augmenting that, but we were doing it at such a subtle level that it actually garnered a reputation that our Cancellation, at least in the industry, was class leading, and our integration of sound enhancement also was such that people weren't going to complain and say that the sounds were fake. So we're perfecting the art of augmenting sound or designing sound, all the while our customers need to continue to improve efficiency up to the point of hybridization or electrification.
Clearly, the idea of electrification in our mobility industry is a good thing. But when it comes to sound in electrification, I understand there might be some positives and negatives. What do you say to that, Andrew?
If you've ever been in an electric vehicle or a car that has cylinder deactivation and pulled up to a red light with your AC or your heater on, suddenly that thing sounds like a jet engine in your vehicle, where when you had a typical internal combustion engine vehicle that wasn't so quiet, you didn't really hear the HVAC noises. But suddenly in an electric vehicle, a lot of noises that were ignored and were not uncomfortable because the whole interior was a little bit more noisy, suddenly those problem sounds become very apparent. And removing that noise caused from blowers or things Panasonic's done for a long time, and their conference room projectors, for instance. You remember old projectors used to sound like a jet engine taking off. And we did a lot of active noise cancellation to remove that vent sound to really create a quieter conference room. And imagine taking those technologies into the vehicle as well.
Jim, you have another dimension to electrification and relative to sound. Can you talk about that from a regulatory perspective?
Yeah, emerging regulations are coming out for us right now. And we're supplying parts in the market to meet these regs, where the EVs have become so quiet that they're a pedestrian safety concern. So not only are we trying to cancel all the other noises Andrew mentioned in the vehicle, but we're now to the point where our cars are so quiet, we've added sound on the outside. And that's another area where we can actually create the brand sound or the style of the vehicle. So your very small compact EV wants to sound a certain way, but your sports EV sounds another way. And these meet a certain amplitude and a certain distance regulation so that any pedestrian within a certain bubble around this vehicle can hear these vehicles, so there's no concern for safety at a crosswalk or something like that.
Excellent. I want to thank you both. I've learned a lot about enhancing sound and canceling sound and where the future of sound is headed. It's amazing what we've been able to accomplish with this technology in managing sound and ultimately to minimize stress, as Jim was talking about. So thank you both.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks.
The Sound Experience, available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. For more information on the Mudhouse Media Podcast Network, go to mudhousemedia.com.